So today we want to finish the Brahma Viharas. We emphasize the teachings on the Brahma Viharas for the purpose of uh, showing it's among all the traditional meditation subjects called karma thana or karma sthana, the places one puts one's effort in to master meditation. Uh, the Brahma Viharas have a special place in all traditions because they link us to the liberating wisdom. The liberating wisdom is seeing uh, the reality as one whole, seeing the differentiations and non-differentiation, non in contrast, but as one whole. So it links us to what the tradition of the Bodhisattva path calls the non-dualistic wisdom, the great wisdom, or sometimes called the transcendental wisdom. The transcendental wisdom, not in the sense that it it leaves samsara, but the transcendental wisdom in the sense that while staying in the samsara, it is not defiled by staying in samsara. So, for this, one needs to penetrate the non dualistic nature of the ultimate reality, which is not emphasized in the teachings explaining the path to become an arahat, to become individually enlightened. Hmm? So, uh, we have explained briefly the practice of love, compassion, and joy. Hmm? We have also pointed out that the practice of joy also connected with uh, happy, with happiness. Huh? Joy is closely connected with happiness, but it is a more kind of, it is expressed in the scriptures, especially in the uh, Mahayana scriptures, as a kind of more subtle happiness. The reason being is that this rejoicing, which is at the object, which is joy, is connected with rejoicing at the ultimate reality. We have explained that in the tradition of the teachings of the Bodhisattva, the object of the Brahma Viharas is not only the beings, but also all the phenomena and the ultimate reality, however we may conceive it. So, especially in the Chinese tradition, which is especially emphasizing the pure land practice, this in this pure land tradition, this practice of the joy is connected with visualization of the pure land. The pure land, of course, is nothing but the pure nature of the mind, which is also conceived as the Buddha nature. Buddha nature is the pure land. And the Buddha nature creates reality because the mind creates reality, and the nature of the mind is uh, the suchness. And suchness in itself has the purity. hmm? Purity is connected with sameness. huh? In sameness, there is purity. In purity, there is sameness. Even though in sameness there can be differentiation, but the purity of the mind is not defiled by these differentiations. So that is why, uh, due to practicing the metta, the joy, it is said that uh, the uh, bodhisattva realizes his vow based on great compassion to stay in samsara. Hmm? So, because he he does not leave samsara, he stays in samsara because he rejoices in the ultimate reality. The object of his joy is the ultimate reality. So he can also, due to this joy in the ultimate reality, he can realize in full depth. This is also emphasized by Nagarjuna and Aryadeva. He can realize in full depth the practice of forbearance, the practice of tolerance, the tolerance of the non arised reality, which is the object of realization of the uh, bodhisattva, the tolerance of the non-arousing, not arising reality. Oh, because the nature of the mind is not arising, has never arisen. So therefore, all the phenomena which are uh, experienced in the mind, their arising is not real. Their arising is illusionary. Through the illusionary arising, one then realizes the emptiness, and the realization of the emptiness is also the realization or of suchness is also the realization of the tolerance of the non-arousing state of all the dharmas. Uh, hmm? So that is why this joy in the ultimate reality is of uh, very great importance for understanding the bodhisattva practice. Due to that joy in the ultimate reality, in suchness, in the true state of the things, in the Dharma Dhatu, in the true sphere of the Dharma, in this tradition, in the true nature of the mind, uh, in connected with the faith of in the pure land, which can be created only in the mind. So the bodhisattva then succeeds in remaining in samsara and tolerating all kinds of obstacles and learning from them. So he is not afraid of hell. He is willing to enter hell in order to learn how to save beings. So even the experience of the hell is to be considered as uh, positive when one can learn from it how to liberate the beings who are still in hell. So this is the ideal of the bodhisattva vows, represented in the Buddhist, in the Mahayana tradition by Kshitigarbha, essence of the earth, who vows never to leave the samsaric state until the all the hells are empty. Hmm? He can only do it by rejoicing in the uh, ultimate reality. Rejoicing in the ultimate reality, he has to be master of samadhi. He has to master all kinds of skillful means to maintain samadhi in all kinds of circumstances. Hmm? This is very important also for understanding the tantric teachings. One has to have all kinds of skillful means, never to leave the samadhi, never to be uh, defiled by the world. Hmm? So, in order never to be defiled by the world, one has to purify the mind from liking and disliking. And this is the function of the practice of upeksha, of equanimity. According to the Visuddhimagga, the first three divine abodes are practiced in the third absorption connected with happiness. Happiness is of the third dhyana, is conceived by Abhidharmakosha as a prashrabdhi, the pliancy of the mind connected with lightness, smoothness, straightness, and the uh, uh, clarity. Hmm? Happiness and concentration bring clarity to the mind. The fourth dhyana we have explained is the dhyana where all the pleasant and unpleasant feelings have been transcended, and thereby the uh, tendency, even the subtle tendency of mind to raga and dvesha, to attachment and to displeasure, ceases to exist. For this reason, only in the fourth dhyana there is no, uh, the mind goes beyond happiness, having gone beyond before, beyond joy, suffering, and distress. And it remains in a neutral feeling, neither happy feeling nor unhappy feeling. Hmm? So the in this state, the mindfulness, which is a key to practice of shamatha and vipassana as well, the mindfulness is purified, and the mind uh, is able to learn to work effortlessly, anabhoga, without effort. The Indeed, the state of realization is a state of effortless working of the mind. And the taste of this effortless working of the mind is the fourth dhyana, where mindfulness has been purified on the base of the neutral feeling which accompanies the fourth dhyana. This neutral feeling hmm, is also called upeksha. Upeksha means not clinging to pleasant or unpleasant sensation, and it also means a neutral feeling. But neutral feeling in its true sense, neutral feeling can be connected with indifference, but here neutral feeling is connected with wisdom of going beyond hmm, raga, dvesha, going beyond liking and disliking. And uh, as we have noticed, this one must experience by oneself. No one can explain that the happiness of the fourth dhyana is superior to the happiness of the previous dhyanas because uh, the mind is freed of this tendency. So one practices shamatha in order to experience pure happiness, and one practices vipassana in order to face suffering with wisdom. Hmm? So both, when complementary, become the content of enlightened mind. So upeksha is the last of the Brahma Viharas because it purifies the previous three, and it purifies all the states of mind, and uh, all the uh, uh, even positive states of mind are purified by upeksha. That's why the Buddhas, no matter whether disciples or bodhisattvas, they stay in the state of equanimity. And the Upeksha as Brahma Vihara then is ideally practiced in the fourth dhyana, the previous three in the lower dhyanas, especially in the third dhyana, which is the highest of the lower dhyanas, connected with uh, uh, happiness. So, Cha is seeing without liking and disliking, which means it is seeing, literally, it means seeing from near. Huh? No object is worthy of, is really has the nature connected with liking or disliking. All objects are neutral. It is a mind which makes the objects lovable or non-lovable. Huh? This is very important to understand. And upeksha means seeing from near, upa, but upa has also the meaning of deprivative meaning. When we see near, then we actually don't see at all. Huh? This is compared in the Transcendental Wisdom Sutras. The world for a realized person is like the mist in the mountains. When one is not realized, then this mist seems to be something very substantial. When one finds oneself in the middle of the mist, there is nothing to be found. The nothing to be found is the concept of nothing to be found is the limit of the practice of the upeksha brahma vihara, of the divine state of equanimity. When one practices thoroughly the practice of equanimity, the mind will naturally jump into the third arupa, third formless sphere of existence, the sphere of nothingness. Hmm? This Visuddhimagga explained this sphere of nothingness as akimchana. Akimchana means uh, kimchit is something, but there is nothing. That means no something. No something is explained, this something is explained in raga, because the essence of existence, hmm, we see essence in existence, self-existence, essence in existence, self-existence, essence in self, because of raga, because of attachment. This is the essence also for understanding the Buddhist teachings. So the kimchana, the something through which we perceive existence to be something real, is raga, is attachment. When we have no attachment, then nothing is seems to be real in itself. Hmm? So nothing seems to be desirable in itself. So this is the importance of practice of the equanimity. It purifies love, it purifies compassion, it purifies joy, because it does not allow the arising of kimchana, of something which is raga, which is attachment. When there is no attachment, there is no aversion, and the job of equanimity is to remove attachment and aversion, which are the base for all defilements. All the other defilements are based on this complex of uh, attachment and aversion. Without them, no real defilements. Now, how to practice uh, Pecha? Again, for a beginner who has never practiced, he should only practice after having uh, uh, worked on the previous three Brahma Viharas, on love, compassion, and joy. Then again, he starts, because he has not yet experienced this uh, absorption into the equanimous state of mind and feeling. He has to start with the adimoksha, with the determination. And what is the determination uh, here? We have seen in order to enter the dhyana of metta, having uh, extended the feeling of metta to all beings, in case of the deeper understanding to all dharmas, including liberation. Then he chooses one person who symbolizes for him this all beings, and he fixes his mind on this person with the uh, determination that this person may be free from enmity, free from hate, free from all troubles, and be experiencing happiness. Then, because he fixes his mind on one object, he can then master the one pointedness due to the uh, uh, ability of the mind to uh, and continually just to one object without being uh, distracted by other objects. Then that uh, feeling of that object, the reception of that object will become subtle, purified, and one can merge with the desired object. This is the practice essence for the practice of the dhyanas on a chosen object, which leads to these spheres of uh, the subtle form and the formless spheres. In case of the uh, compassion, we have seen one has to choose after extending the feeling and the mind to all 10 directions with the wish to free uh, beings from all suffering and to free the world and of all suffering. Then one chooses one person who symbolizes for him suffering, again fixes his mind on him. In case of the joy, then one has to fix the uh, mind on the person who symbolizes these attainments, the connected with joy, especially the attainment of wisdom, uh, which is the most worthy one, and he contemplates him with a determination. May that the person not be deprived of uh, the all the good things he has acquired, and but this can only work after he has understood the uh, that actually the real object is all beings and the world, and in a deeper sense, as we have explained, also the ultimate reality, which is the rejoicing in the ultimate reality, is the most subtle rejoicing. Then, how to enter into the practice of the uh, upeksha, of equanimity? One has to choose a person who is neither happy nor unhappy, a neutral person, experiencing neither happiness nor non-happiness, neither happiness nor suffering. And what one does, then one thinks that this person, uh, the karma is his own, karma sako, his own being is his karma. His being is determined by his karma. I may wish him to be happy, but he may still experience suffering. I may wish him to be freed from suffering, but he will still have to face sickness, have to face death. I wish him not to be deprived of all the joys, but he still will uh, experience deprivation. It cannot be avoided. So, how to practice these positive feelings without getting stuck in them? Practice them with upeksha, practice them with detachment. Hmm? So, the previous three states of mind, they are purifying the mind and they attune the mind to the highest reality. But the fourth state of the mind is directly kind of experiencing the wisdom of the highest reality, the wisdom of sameness. The highest reality is connected with the wisdom of sameness. In terms of highest reality, all is marked by one and the same characteristics, which for Buddhism is suchness, the non dualistic understanding of emptiness. Emptiness of what? Emptiness of the self in the beings and self in all the phenomena. This is the meaning of the suchness. So there is always the suchness of uh, something. Suchness is uh, the emptiness of self, and the emptiness of the self is the suchness. So this emptiness of the self is the suchness of all the beings and of all the phenomena. This is uh, the only reality, the one reality. There is no other as far as enlightened mind is concerned. So the upeksha one enters through determination, but actually it is nothing else but the very characteristic of the enlightened mind. Enlightened mind has no defilements because it stays in equanimity. Hmm? The Arahat is one who always stays in the equanimity, in the samadhi of equanimity. Therefore, he is free of accumulating any karma whatsoever. Not accumulating the karma means not uh, living in kinchana, in nothing in particular, nothing to behold. Hmm? So when he is alive, he observes these five aggregates as being, so to say, empty. When he dies, he enters nirvana, leaving the five aggregates. So nobody can find him. His mind does not dwell anywhere. As far as the bodhisattva path is concerned, the bodhisattva does not leave samsara. His aim is to minimize the suffering and learn from suffering to save the other sentient beings. For that, he necessarily needs to practice the four Brahma Viharas, especially the equanimity, which, so to say, is uh, the way how to protect the mind from suffering. Protecting the mind from suffering, as we will see, is one of the 10 practices leading to the acquiring of the faith, of the true faith in our scripture, in the true faith in Mahayana, in the true faith or in the Buddha nature of the mind, in the true faith in suchness. So one has to protect one's mind in order to face all kinds of obstacles. And the one who protects the mind from defilements, that is upeksha and equanimity. And equanimity also purifies the love, compassion, joy. Hmm? Now, uh, for example, in the Visuddhimagga, each and every of the four Brahma Viharas has the far enemy and the near enemy. The far enemy is easy to see. The near enemy, because it is very difficult to see, therefore we non enlightened beings, we are deluded even while practicing the positive uh, sensations which lead to enlightenment. So the obvious enemy of which the metta, which love removes, they cannot exist together, is a hate. When we love something, we cannot hate it. The love and hate cannot arise in the same mind. This is obvious. But the near enemy of love, which is difficult to see, is when we love, we love something that is connected with pleasant sensation, which we want, which we desire. And this is includes attachment, and it is not very easy to see that actually love towards the purity of love. This is not easy to see. One has to uh, protect one's mind to be able to see it. And as we have said, the one who protects the mind is the wisdom, wisdom of equanimity. So the obvious opposite of compassion is violence. When one has compassion, one cannot be violent at the same time. Hmm? That is quite clear. But compassion being connected with the contemplation of suffering gives easily rise to self-pity, and this is not a positive feeling, and that is not easy to see. So the meditator of compassion should protect his mind by upeksha, by equanimity, not giving rise to the self-pity. The obvious opposite of joy is a word difficult to translate, arati. Rati from Ram, Ramati, Rati means non-rejoicing. Non-rejoicing implies also boredom, non-enthusiasm, kind of dullness. When one is rejoicing, one is freed from boredom, one is freed from uh, a lack of enthusiasm, a lack of energy. But the close enemy to joy, which is not easy to see, is, as we have mentioned, euphoria. When we are joyful, we very often connect it with the stupid kind of joy. Joy not connected with the wisdom, but joy uh, connected with unwholesome feeling, with not wishing good, not wishing beneficial for the other, but just the opposite. So how to protect the joy from being unwise joy, also by upeksha, by practicing, by protecting the mind by equanimity. And finally, the equanimity. Equanimity, as we have seen, is the opposite of both uh, raga and dvesha, of both attachment and displeasure. So it purifies the mind, it purifies the defilements of the mind, making the mind pure by practicing equanimity. Practicing equanimity means practicing sameness, neither liking nor disliking. It is connected, this practicing of sameness, with effortlessness of the mind and purified mindfulness. Purified mindfulness sees the objects clearly, but does not get distracted by tendencies of liking and disliking. So this is, in a way, the essence of meditation, the essence of both shamatha and vipassana. This is very important to understand. It implies the pure observation called in Buddhism anupassana. Anupassana means seeing from near. Seeing from near means seeing without grasping and without uh, pushing away. This is the essence actually of all Buddhist practices. And this ability to purify mindfulness is usually practiced by meditation on the breath. The breath is perfectly neutral. It is neither object of happiness nor object of uh, displeasure, but the mind makes it object of happiness or object of displeasure. And so actually is with with all of all objects of our experience. But it is most clearly realized, directly seen by practicing the mindfulness of the breath. Uh, so the mindfulness of the breath also leads to, when mastered, leads to the fourth dhyana, in which there is no place for even a subtle tendency for liking and disliking, and observation becomes a pure. This fourth dhyana is then presented in Buddhism, in Buddhist teachings, as the best base for practicing uh, shamatha and vipassana, and for joining the shamatha and vipassana together. In the tradition of the Yogacara, in Yogacara Bhumi Shastra, this fourth dhyana is called Nirvana Sadrisha. It is not Nirvana, but it is similar to Nirvana because there is no place in it like in Nirvana for any tendency to liking or disliking. So the wisdom of sameness is can easily be made insight into. And the true sameness does not uh, belong to the the world of differentiation to the differentiating mind. The true sameness belong to the non-differentiating mind. Hmm? So for this reason, the differentiating mind is and following the differentiating mind in Buddhism based on kimchana, on something being the attachment, is called uh, prapancha. Huh? Prapancha means expansion of thinking, expansion of perception based on uh, raga, based on attachment. So when we are defiled, when we have defilements, automatically, but if we meditate, it should be made conscious, automatically we expand our perception, we expand our thinking, we expand our differentiation by the driving power of the desire, driving power of attachment. Hmm? The desire and attachment in Buddhism, they are often used as synonyms. The chanda. But at the same time, it is very important to understand this is the same desire, chanda, is a base for all positive and is also base for all negative. That is why the Agamas explain this desire is the root of all the phenomena. Without the desire, no phenomena will arise. But there is desire to the Dharma and there is desire to the sensuality, to the uh, enjoyment of the five senses. So the first one is the root of all the positive, the other one is the root of all the negative tendencies. Because of desire for the sensuality, one then desire for the objects of the five senses, greed for the object of the five senses, then due to this kimchana, due to this something, then one performs all kinds of unwholesome acts not conducive to one's own happiness and to the happiness of others. So uh, this is the basic understanding of the Brahma Viharas. Now it's very important to understand their importance. Their importance is, to use the explanation of the scriptures, is they are the easiest way to stay in Dashta Dharma Sukha Vihara, to stay in happiness here and now, to stay in the pure state of feeling, pure state of mind here and now. This is very important. This ability to do so is uh, uh, becomes especially easy when one has cultivated consequently the positive feelings, because the positive feelings make the mind positive. Negative feelings make the mind negative. What we attach to are the feelings, and because we have uh, desire for positive mind, we have desire for positive dharma. The positive mind, positive dharma is connected always and inseparable from positive state of feeling, positive state of sensation. Positive state of sensation is summarized in Buddhism as these four uh, divine abodes. So they are methods of shamatha in Mahayana tradition. They are also methods of vipassana, as we will see, as we have tried to explain, because they link the meditator to the ultimate reality, which is sameness and which is the ultimate uh, shamatha. hmm? The ultimate shamatha, its object becomes these three doors of liberation: the emptiness, signlessness, and desirelessness. There is no place for desire in nirvana. There is no place for uh, attachment to the signs of object in nirvana, and there is no uh, self in nirvana. Therefore, it is empty of self. It is empty of self in beings, and it is empty of self in all that we experience inside and outside. So this is the samadhi of suchness, of which we will speak in the coming videos. The samadhi of suchness is also called the eka samskara samadhi. It is a samadhi of one formation. Hmm? That means this suchness of the mind is to be realized moment by moment. Whatever happens, whatever object the mind has in mind, it has to be always understood with the suchness of the mind. So the practice of the Brahma Viharas is linked to staying in the state of happiness here and now, and also it is linked in uh, adopting or conforming to the real state of things, to suchness. Then it is also connected, as like Abhidharma Samuchaya explains, Asanga explained, is connected with cultivation of the 37 causes of bodhi. It is connected for the bodhisattva of, as we have explained, for uh, staying in more and more favorable states of existence with a process of purifying the mind, purifying the existence. So uh, all these factors are connected with the practice of the four Brahma Viharas. That is why this practice is so important. Uh, then uh, to finish this part concerning with the Brahma Viharas, before we go to the uh, explanation of the meditation on suchness, which is the uh, subject matter of the book we're going to discuss. It is very important to understand that these four divine states, first we practice them separately, for the purpose of seeing them as a one whole. Similarly, we practice uh, the uh, four bases of mindfulness separately: for mindfulness of the body, then mindfulness of the sensations, and mindfulness of the mind, then mindfulness of the mental uh, the mental objects connected with liberation. But actually, uh, they, when we advance in this practice, they merge together. Similarly, we practice Sila, the ethical conduct, Samadhi, and wisdom separately in order to make them merge together. Similarly, also, we practice these four Brahma Viharas separately in order to merge them together in, as we have seen in the tradition of the Bodhisattvas, they become the uh, abode of the enlightened mind. Hmm? Where does the enlightened mind abide? It has no abode, so it abides uh, in limitless love, compassion, joy, and equanimity. Even though it has no abode, it abides in these states. So ultimately, these states, they link us to the ultimate reality when we understand them also as having no abode. That which is uh, limitless has no abode, because the mind is limitless, and the limitlessness is the characteristic of the of all reality. It is the principle of suchness, and it is also, as we will see, the suchness has only, this is very important for in Chinese philosophy. The use of suchness is precisely the relative reality. If if principle has no application in relative reality, it is a empty principle. The suchness is not an empty principle because of its great application in the relative reality. This is what our awakening of faith wants to convey. So ultimately, as Visuddhimagga explains with very nice parallels, practicing the four divine states is compared in Visuddhimagga in the path of purification to a mother educating her child. Of course, we should understand the child here is a synonym of mind. So the child is one, but obviously it appears in all kinds of different situations. So similarly, the suchness is one, but it appears in all different situations, in all different causes and conditions. So the one mother loves her child, and the child becomes educated because when it is born, she gives him love. She saturates him with love so he can be a healthy child. If he is not saturated with love, he will not be a healthy child. When the child which is given this love of the mother, she cherishes him like her uh, being herself. So when it becomes sick, when it is unhappy, when it is suffering, it gives compassion. It tries to protect it from suffering, even at the cost of her own life. When the child is doing well, he is getting the proper education, he is successful in uh, becoming more independent, he develops certain skills, he can take easily more care of himself, he is not so dependent on the mother rejoices. And when he is becomes independent, then the mother lets go. She is equanimous. She does not try to control him in any way. She has supported his good tendencies. She has uh, uh, disapproved his bad tendencies. He becomes independent. She is equanimous. We have explained the uh, close enemy of the four Brahma Viharas, being attachment, being self-pity, being euphoria, the close enemy of equanimity, which is not clearly understood, which is not clearly seen, is indifference. Indifference uh, is the expression of our non-wisdom. Equanimity is expression of our wisdom. When we see things in the terms of sameness, we are wise. But when we become indifferent, we have left the power of wisdom. Hmm? So the mother uh, is equanimous but never indifferent. When the child needs, she will be there, but she does not care when he can take care of himself. So uh, the mother then, by understanding the conditioning of the child, the thinking of the child, the mind of the child, he, so to say, creates four different sons, but these four different sons, they are one son. Similarly, the mind, when uh, needs love, the mind needs compassion, the mind needs joy, and the mind needs equanimity to be healthy. When it is healthy, we become mindful and aware, detached, yet never indifferent. Hmm? So, this is the fruit of the practice of the Brahma Viharas. So, that much for the Brahma Viharas, which lead to better existence in the sphere of the in the desire sphere, the better existence in the divine sphere, and ultimately to the liberation based on the deeper understanding of the in this tradition of the Buddha nature of the mind. And how to realize the samadhi of suchness. We will talk in the coming lessons based on the uh, the book we're going to discuss, the awakening of faith in Mahayana by the Ashwagosha. Ashwagosha, as you may know, especially for those who have studied the Zen tradition, the Chinese tradition, they can never be absent in all lineages of the bodhisattvas. He is supposed to be an arahat, but he is a great arahat. A great arahat is no one else than the great bodhisattva. Uh, in the eighth stage of the bodhisattva path, called the unmovable, the bodhisattva becomes the great arahat. His mind becomes unmovable like that of an arahat, but he still has uh, some things to learn to become a perfectly enlightened Buddha. Uh, so that much for now.